Okay, with regard to the distinction between holistic and individualistic social theory, we can distinguish among different propositions or different theses about methodological individualism, which is a backbone for neoclassical economics in general. One is the truistic social atomism. It's true, but it's also trivial. It is self-evident that social phenomena can be explained only in terms of the analysis of the conduct of individuals. Two, all statements about social phenomena can be reduced without loss of meaning to descriptions of the qualities of individuals. If you want to explain society or understand society, your obvious starting point is the individual and their conduct. Three, that only individuals are real. There's no such thing as society. A society is only a collection or an ensemble of the individuals. Thus, any concept which refers to properties of collectivities or social systems are just abstract models, shorthand explanations maybe, which are nothing but the constructions of the theorist in some way that the notion of individual is not. What we call society is nothing but an abstraction. It doesn't have any kind of ontological status. It doesn't exist, in other words. Only individual is real and only individual behavior is real. So if you want to construct a proper social theory, it's a misnomer in this case, of course, then we should talk about individual behavior and their effects. This is a very strong, by the way, assumptions, which can be seen as a kind of ontological claim rather than an epistemological one. It's about the existence, not about knowing. 4, there cannot be laws in the social sciences, save insofar as there are laws about the psychological dispositions of individuals. For example, according to the Austrian School of Economics, economic science should be based upon individual psychological motives, valuations, subjective valuations. Subjectivity is the hallmark of Austrian economics in this regard, for example. The mainstream neoclassical economics, such as the Walrasian general equilibrium theory, for example, does not have this property, but Austrians insist that individual psychological states and subjective variations are of utmost importance. Okay, so in this sense, we can say that individualism, methodological individualism, is a form of reductionism. Reductionism states that, first, it is possible to provide a rigorous specification of a hierarchy of entities from the higher one to the lower ones, and therefore rank any pair of domains. And second, the entities and laws of higher levels can be reduced to facts about entities and laws at lower levels. Remember, positivistic approach, the reductionist thesis, all sciences share the same method, but you can reduce all sciences ultimately into physics, right? We should start physics. We start from society. Society is made of individuals, human beings. Human beings are made of some, I don't know, cells, biological entities, which can be explained, whose workings can be explained on the basis of chemistry and therefore ultimately physics. So if you want to understand society, your obvious starting point should be physics itself. Well, it sounds something like BS, but more or less in its simplified version, at least, we can say that all sciences ultimately can be reducible to physics, which is the most important sciences of all. So according to reductionism, some higher order entities, properties, or powers can be defined, explained, or predicted on the basis of some lower order ones. Well, by the way, we should add that in economics or in social theory, it's not a complete type of reductionism, but a partial one. We start from the individual and we go up into the society, so to speak. So society can be reduced to individuals or social atomism states this kind of idea. But we don't, as economists, we don't want to go beyond this, right? We cannot say that, ultimately society can be explained on the basis of the behavior of some atomic, even quantum states, etc. We don't care about this part, only partially reductionist we are. We start from the individual and go up to the society. And according to Daniel Little, another methodologist guy, we can distinguish among three important theses of methodological individualism. One is the ontological thesis, which states that all social entities are reducible without remainder to logical compounds of individuals. Social entities are nothing but ensembles of individuals in various relations to one another. Second, the meaning thesis, social concepts must be definable in terms of concepts that refer only to individuals and their relations and behavior. And the third one is about the explanation thesis. There are no autonomous social explanations. Instead, all social facts and regularities must ultimately be explicable in terms of facts about individuals, their motives, powers, beliefs, and capacities. This distinction, I guess, is more important than the previous ones, and because it's based upon an important distinction between ontology and epistemology, basically. The first thesis is about the ontological status of the individual and society and their relations. So it basically says that it's a matter of ontological theory, ontological or the philosophy of being in general, to talk about the relationship between individual and society. The strong thesis about methodological individualism that only individuals are real is a kind of ontological statement and a strong ontological statement. But this does not necessarily mean that this is a case for, or this is a defense for the methodological individualism. Here, there's a difference between methodology and ontology in general. Ontology is about being, as we know. Methodology is about knowing and explaining, basically. So here, the second and the third thesis is about epistemology, whereas the first thesis is about ontology. It says basically only individuals do have some ontological status. There's no such thing as society, you can say. But this does not necessarily imply the necessity of the methodological individuals. You may believe in ontological individualism, but you may have some questions. At least the definition of methodological individualism is not clear if you start from ontological individualism. The second and the third thesis is about epistemology. As I say, it's about knowing the society. In the first case, in the second thesis, in other words, we say that social concepts can be defined on the basis of individual concepts, which is a matter of definition. This may or this does not imply ontological individualism, basically. You may believe that there's a such thing as society, as an ontological entity, so to speak, but you may still to choose to start from the individual in order to understand society. You accept the reality of the society, but still you can say that the only proper method to understand society as a general entity is to start from individuals. This is exactly the position of Friedrich von Hayek, an Austrian economist, an important economist. He is a methodological individualist in the full sense of the word, but he still believes that, or he does not reject the existence of the society, but he insists that your obvious, as the scientist, as the economist, your obvious starting point is the individual herself. So the explanation thesis is about the explanation. It's about the cause and effect relations. So basically, this, again, an epistemological thesis, and it says basically, if you want to explain the cause and effect relationship within the society, you should start from the individuals, their motives, and their interactions with each other, basically. So it's really difficult to distinguish between the second and the third one, but the third one emphasizes the importance of explanation, and the second one is about the definition. But from an epistemological point of view, the difference between them does not matter too much. I think the first one is more important and even stronger than the other ones. It says basically all social entities are nothing but the ensembles of the individuals or atomists. Anyway, on the other hand, if we start from again our matrix about the relationship between society and individual, and also between explanation and understanding. Again, this matrix is based upon Martin Hollis's ideas. The two columns are about explanation and understanding, how social science should be done. They are the answer to this question. In the case of explanation, we can say that basically economics, as the other social sciences, should be concerned with explaining cause and effect relations. This is more or less a positivistic approach. But on the other hand, as an alternative to this positivistic approach, which emphasizes the importance of explanation, there's another tradition which starts with more or less Hegel. Actually, Hegel's idea of the spirit, and if you want to understand the historical development of the world, of society, of history in general, you have to understand the behavior of what he calls the spirit or the Geist, whatever, which is the spirit. So this hermeneutical tradition is associated with basically Hegel, but even more important than Hegel is the philosopher, German philosopher again, Wilhelm Dilthey, who actually develops hermeneutics approach on the basis of Hegelian ideas. About social sciences, he talks about, for example, the spirit of the time, zeitgeist, and so forth things. And also hermeneutical approach is basically, more or less, we can say, based upon interpretation of some holy texts, biblical interpretations in general. The word hermeneutics itself comes from the Greek word hermeneus, which means interpreter. Some people also say that it's also associated with God Hermes, who was the messenger of other gods. I don't know about the validity of this argument, but still we can say that hermeneutics is about translating, or more accurately, is about interpreting human behavior. It asserts basically that social world must be understood from within rather than explained from without, which means something like this. Mere observation is not very helpful in understanding human behavior. You should try to interpret, and you should try to uncover the category of meaning that is expressed in actual human behavior. Which implies that society is essentially conceptual in character. It is also constituted by our understanding of the society, by our concepts that we use to make our behavior or actions meaningful. And social life is not independent of the concepts about how individuals perceive it. So it's basically something like this. Society is nothing but, or it's very similar to a kind of text. This interpretation of the text, biblical texts. That's the starting point of the hermeneutical tradition. There's a very important notion in this tradition that is called hermeneutical circle. It's something like this. We read some holy text, right? So what's going on within the text should be or must be interpreted in order to get some meaning of the text. So if you move in this direction, if you try to interpret what the text itself says, what are the actual or real meanings hidden behind the words, so you will get a new vision, so to speak. And this vision make you successful in understanding deeper the text itself. As you understand deeper and deeper the text, your vision will change, and this vision will help you to understand to a great deal the text itself. This is the hermeneutical circle. So society is something like that. The relationship between the society and the individual is basically a conceptual. Individual herself is part of the society, and the society itself is not independent of the concepts of the individuals participating in it. So this is very interesting.